Welcome to Story Chats at Inspy Romance. I'm Elizabeth Madry, and I'm here with my two co-hosts.
I'm Narelle Atkins.
I'm Valerie Comer.
Milla Holt is here with us today to chat about her recent release, Through the Blaze. I'm going to read your bio real quick, and then we'll jump in. Milla Holt writes fiction that reflects her Christian faith. She loves happy endings, heroes and heroines who discover sometimes hard but always vital truths, and stories that uplift and encourage. She lives with her family in the east of England, where they enjoy rambling in the countryside, reading good books, and making up silly lyrics to their favorite songs. Thank you so much for being here, Milla.
Thanks for having me.
So
we always have to hear some of those lyrics.
Right. I was just thinking we need to add that in toward the end. Maybe you can regale us with a funny song.
Oh dear.
Tell us a little bit about the book, sort of in your own words.
Right. Well, it's a second chance romance about a couple who is already married, but they've split up because of the husband's gambling addiction. And so I wanted to explore that, all the tangled issues involved in a marriage breakup and then getting back together. And in the midst of it, they have a grown-up daughter who's getting married. And through her daughter's marriage, the main character sees her own life reflected back at her, and she's terrified that her daughter is doing the things she did, and she's worried it might end up the way her own marriage ended up. So in a nutshell, that's what it's about. Yeah.
No, that's a great nutshell.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to start, since you touched on the fact that they are married and they're separated, not actually divorced. And that was curious to me because it feels like it's been a long time that they have been separated. And then her daughter has sort of a lot of bitterness because her parents were separated. And I just wondered if you would talk a little bit about like your decision not to have them have actually been divorced, and these are all fictional people, right? But would it have been easier on the daughter in the long run, do you think, if they had gone ahead and been divorced? Just about that sort of idea and some of those issues then that you covered so well, to the point that there were moments that were like hard to read because it's just so heartbreaking seeing what these people have gone through. So tell us a little bit about that and your thoughts and where you were going with that.
Well, I thought about having them be divorced, but I thought I didn't want to go quite that far. And simply because there are theological issues there, which I didn't want to delve into.
Sure.
And so I thought I'll just have them be separated, thinking they're not going to get back together, but not having quite taken that step. And I did hint that they had tried to have a reconciliation a couple of years ago, but it went pear-shaped. And since then, everything's been unresolved. So more or less because I didn't quite want to take that step as in to have them completely divorced, because I like dealing with tangled issues, but not that tangled.
That's fair. Okay, that's a very valid reason. For sure.
What was the heroine's name again? I don't think I wrote that down.
Lisa, right?
Lisa, yes.
Yeah. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Who are we talking about?
Pronounce the daughter's name. Is
her daughter's name is Elena.
Elena. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
the American does not pronounce every syllable properly, apparently.
I know, but Eileen is fine. But yeah, I did have a beta reader say that she didn't know how the name would be pronounced, so I thought about putting an author's note and I forgot. But it's Elena.
Elena. Okay, great.
Yeah.
And that's
Very
what
good.
I would have thought was Elena. That's what I heard in my head. But
Oh,
that's
good.
Aussie.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate that. Where'd my brain go? It's gone. And whatever it was, it just went off. So we'll go to Narelle, and if I get my follow-up question back, I will go back to that. But it just
round
totally,
2.
Yeah, it just totally spoofed. So Narelle.
That's okay. So I'm going to read my question because I've forgotten it. I'm doing well as well. We're having a good episode, aren't we? And so my question, I was fascinated by the European setting in Norway and the small Norwegian town and Kai's cabin by the lake, and being in northern Norway and actually being so far north that you're within the Arctic Circle. I mean, to this Aussie who's living in the Southern Hemisphere a million miles away, I mean, that just seems like an alternate universe. So I just adored the setting. And so my question is, what inspired you to choose this particular setting for this book? And I think the other books in the series are also in this roundabout this location. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we lived in, my family and I lived in Finnmark for 2 years. Shortly before we moved to the UK, and I wanted to set it in a small town. We lived in other small towns in Norway, but Finnmark was special because it's so sparsely populated. We lived in a tiny town with a population of about 2,000 people. It was really tiny, and so that was that. I wanted to set it there as opposed to a different part of Norway with lots of trees and forests. That's why I chose it's the town is completely made up, but it's based on places where we have lived before. Yeah,
I definitely got that feeling of the sparseness, the treelessness, the rocks, the nothingness, and to me it just seemed like it was almost metaphorical for the story.
Oh. I didn't think of that, but yeah.
But all the emptiness, especially in Lisa, as she's so bitter at the beginning of the story.
Yeah. I was a bit worried about that. I toned her down a lot.
You toned her down?
But yeah, based on initial reader feedback. So I tried to I tend to in my first drafts tend to be almost caricaturish.
Okay.
and then I turn them down. I think it's always better to go big and then trim down as opposed to beef up afterwards.
I absolutely agree with you that if you have an over-the-top character, it's easier to pull them back than to take a mediocre person and make them more interesting. Like it is. Yeah. I agree.
And she had to be bitter. Like you couldn't start the book with the setup with her not being bitter. And I think and that goes with being separated and not divorced. So she's been in this limbo of, it would be logical probably to get divorced. It would be logical probably to move on. But there's that part of me that for a bunch of reasons, I just can't cut that string. I can't break that tie. And there's just so much internal conflict with her and her that goes along with that as well.
And I will say, because I'm not generally a big fan of marriage reconciliation stories because they're too heartbreaking for me. I hate seeing marriages that are broken. And so, but this one, the reasoning for it was good. It wasn't, oh, we fell out of love, or, we became different people. It wasn't neglect. It wasn't indifference, which I think so often, it's sort of the infuriating reasons, and they're real. Like they are real reasons that people will split up their marriage, but they're infuriating to me because it's like marriage is work, like period. And if you're not going to do the work, then of course your marriage is going to die. And so many marriage reconciliation stories, that's what it is nobody was doing the work. Whereas this, the reasons were so valid. I sound super judgmental of these other people whose marriages are suffering, but apparently I am. Sorry. But these reasons, it was still heartbreaking because I still hate to see a marriage that's broken. But you could kind of understand from both sides where it was coming from. So it kept the pages turning because you actually were rooting for them to do the work to fix things, to get back together. So I thought that was very nicely done.
Thank you.
Valerie, I sort of segued in with the reasons
you
there.
Segued
Did you see that?
Yes.
I segued into.
Thank you. Milla, I had never really given a whole lot of thought to gambling addiction before. I'm thankful that it hasn't touched my life, I guess, especially seeing it so exposed and laid out on the page, like it was in Through the Blaze. So seeing Kai struggle with this issue that caused the breakup of his marriage was really eye-opening for me. So what made you choose a gambling addiction as basically part of the backstory and the trigger for everything?
I think I knew that I wanted him to have some sort of addiction. And of all the addictions out there, again, it goes out to what could I write more realistically about? I don't have any experience with substance abuse, and I thought that might be a bit too much for me to portray realistically. So I chose gambling addiction because it's one of those things where some people, well, I know a lot of Christians don't agree with gambling, full stop, but in society it's out there. A lot of people do it for fun. There seems to be more and more of it. I see it all the time, even on my children's YouTube. When they're watching YouTube, these gambling ads pop up, and it's something which almost goes over your head if you're not thinking about it. But then when you think about the devastation that it causes, I knew that could be that could be a fruitful ground to use. So that's why I chose. I wanted to use it to explore one sort of addiction, and that one was the most I don't want to say convenient, that's a bad word, but the most what I thought I was interested in it, and I thought I could portray it better than the other types of addiction, which are equally devastating. Yeah.
Like when I think of gambling, I think of casinos and I think of buying lottery tickets. I don't think so much about online gaming sites, but I mean, I know they're there. But to me, this whole thing was just like, it opened this window, not door, because I'm not walking through it. I'm just like looking like, wow. And of course, because they're living on the backside of Norway, it's not like they've got a lot of opportunities. I imagine they don't have a lot of opportunities to gamble if it isn't online. So
yeah,
what kind of research went into this?
Ooh,
You can do it without getting the government too concerned.
No, exactly. I researched, I started with Gamblers Anonymous. I read a lot of personal stories. I bought several books with people's stories of how they had been involved in gambling and how it ruined their lives and how they got out of it. And it's incredible how many different kinds there are. There is that online gambling.
Yeah.
You can have it on your phone. These days it's so easy. There's slot machines, which again are so accessible. They used to be, it's changed now in Norway, but they used to have them in the corner shops or in the gas stations, or in the mall. The way you have photo booths, there'd be a slot machine where people could sit all day. I had a friend who would, the minute she'd get her paycheck, she'd go and sit there and just spend, blow it all within a few hours. So there, I explored lots of stories like that, and it's really heartbreaking, really heartbreaking. I found huge amounts of research about how hidden gambling addiction is, because unlike other types of addiction, where you look, rough and, I don't know, scruffy or ill, if you're a gambling addict, can hide it so well, and often people never find out until they've reached complete and utter ruin. That's when it comes out. So yeah, I found a lot, which of course never made it into the story, but it made me, as you all know, of course. But yeah, what was your question?
I think you answered it about what
I researched. Yeah. So a lot of reading. Gamblers Anonymous, personal testimonies. Yeah.
So have they regulated gambling in Norway? Las Vegas may be the city in the world for gambling, or Macau in China. But I live in the country in the world that's got the worst gambling problem. in Australia. Like it's just
wow.
part of our psyche. Melbourne Cup Day, a horse race, is a public holiday. And I mean, we really have got a history of being quite entrenched. Poker machines, there's a lot where I live, there's a lot of legislation so that people that have problem gambling issues can't actually get more than a certain amount of money out of their cards. Like there's limits, there's a lot of complicated stuff going on trying to rein it in, because I mean, people, it's even sport now, you can't even watch football or tennis or whatever without someone being able to gamble on it. So, and we're such a big sporting nation, I think that's where a lot of that's come in. But I mean, I think that was such an important topic to raise, because it is so hidden, and there, you would never guess a lot of the time until people start doing criminal activities and do like white collar crime. A lot of that is generated because of gambling as well. So it's a really important issue to raise. So I'm glad you raised it in this story.
I agree. Yeah. My husband went to high school in Las Vegas. So for the first several years we were married, when we visited his family, it was in Las Vegas. And it's a pernicious disease, because again, it starts out as just sort of a way to maybe have a little fun, and then it just explodes. It can, but then there are people who have no problem stopping after a set amount, and it really is just a game.
Yes.
You know, but you never know what it's going to be until it's too late. If you are someone who's going to be addicted to it. So yeah.
Yeah. So we need to wrap this up in a more positive way. So how are we going to do that, ladies?
I have a question. Did you remember your question, Beth?
No, I did not yet. So I'm still hoping it's there.
All right. Well, I have another question that I didn't.
Narelle will take us back to the light.
Yes. So one of the characters I was really interested in knowing more about was Adam. And Adam is the character who's engaged to Alina at the beginning of the story. And so particularly when we met his family, I'm not going to go in and say any more than that, because I don't want to spoil the book. Have you written Alina and Adam's romance anywhere, or did you think about making this book bigger and including them as a subplot or anything like that? I'd be really interested to see Adam and Alina's story as a romance in some stage, because I think it would be very fascinating with his family dynamics to actually see how that would unpack.
Yeah.
Oh, that actually did not cross my mind, because I was fixated on the on the older couples in this particular series. So it did not register at all to think about writing a story for them, but that's an interesting idea.
Here's what you could do. You could write it as a short novelette or something, and at the end of this book you could offer it as a reader magnet for subscribers, because I think I would be right there going, I want to read more of that. Click, here's my email address. Please send me that short story.
I would too.
Yeah.
I totally would. Yeah.
Okay.
So they were 3 people right there.
Yeah.
And more out in viewer land.
They were just so fun. As the younger, and again, they're both still, even though they were not huge parts of the story, they were very full characters. So you could tell that there was more there to read. So yeah.
The story would have fallen apart without them, though.
It would have. Yeah.
They were vital.
They were the linchpins for sure. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's what I did have that in mind. But I thought about, I didn't get this done in time, but I wanted to write a reader magnet with Kai and Lisa's original love story.
Oh, wow.
When they first met and eloped. I wanted to write that story, but time has a way of running. So I haven't written it yet, but it's on my radar. But I will think about writing the other one as well. Yeah.
You could write the Kai and Lisa one. That would be one that would be public facing, like to introduce the whole series. It could go in a variety of places, whereas the story of Alina and Adam would be more for people already in the series. I think that's how I would do it. You can do it however you like, or not at all. Obviously.
Thank you. I should have my notebook to note all these Good
Or
idea.
you can always come back and watch the episode when
Right.
it goes live.
Oh yes.
all the advice right here for just what you paid for it.
Sorry about that.
So tell us what is next. This is book 2 in a series. Tell us a little bit about book 1, and then I saw actually that book 3 is up for pre-order. So tell us about books 1 and 3 a little bit.
Oh, okay. Well, the series is about this group of friends who were all bridesmaids in Lisa and Kai's wedding. And now it's 20 odd years on. And for various reasons, all of them are single, either never married or single again for various reasons. So Lisa's book was actually supposed to be book 1. So I wrote it first.
Okay.
And then I realized that if I'm writing a small town romance, I should probably have book 1 as someone who's returning to the town as opposed to someone who's been there all along.
Sure.
So I wrote a different book 1 about another character who's moved away and has come back. And book 3 is about Kai's brother.
Okay.
And in my mind, he's the other son, not the prodigal one, but the good one.
Yeah.
Who stays home and
the bitter brother.
Exactly. Yeah. the goody two shoes, who doesn't get the recognition. So he's going to be book 3. Books 4 and 5 are not fully formed yet in my mind. I have very vague ideas, but I know I have I've written one sentence. I know who the friends are, but I don't know exactly how their love stories will pan out yet.
No, but that's great. So there will be 5 total?
Yes.
Aiming for? Okay. Excellent.
Yes. I do know that. Exactly. 5 friends. Yes. I do know that one will be a serial dater.
Oh.
Who vows never to get married, and then she meets rather she's a serial dater, always dating Mr. Wrong, vows she's going to stop dating till she sorts her head out, and that's when she meets Mr. Right.
Of course.
And the last one will be I think she'll be someone who's not married because of family reasons. She's a carer for her. I probably shouldn't say this out loud because everything might change by the time they come up. But so far, that's what I have in mind.
Love it. That sounds fun. That's going to be really cool. Even if
sounds about as precise as my plans for upcoming books too. Yeah, I kind of vaguely know who one of the characters will be in some issue. Maybe.
I don't think any of us are major plotters. Narelle plots a little, right?
Oh, I do plot within the actual book. I do plot extensively, but
okay, good.
Across the whole series, I'm a bit vague. Okay. Yeah,
fair.
I don't plot stories ahead. I might know a trope, but if you were to jump to ahead, that's probably about as far as I'd go. Is I'd know a trope. Yeah,
fair. Tell everyone where they can find you and your books.
The easiest place would be my website, www.millaholt.com. And I'm also very irregularly on Facebook and Instagram. And that's about it.
All right, that's perfect. And you're are you in Kindle Unlimited? I know this one is.
No.
Oh, it's not.
No, I'm not. No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Excellent. So they're wherever books are sold then.
Exactly.
You're all over. That's exciting. Very good. That's a good thing. I'm in KU because it's easier primarily.
I probably should be, but
there are good arguments
but I'm not.
for both. There are good arguments for both.
Yeah, and for an international setting as well, like KU's is more US centric rather than necessarily everywhere else. So selling an international story is a different proposition to a US based story as well.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that could be true. I'm not saying that you lied about it. I'm just saying I hadn't ever really thought about it that way before.
Well, if you look at the data in Australia, Apple is actually the biggest seller of ebooks.
Okay,
it's not Amazon.
And they say Kobo is in Canada, but everybody I know reads on Kindle. So Kobo must be big in the East where I am not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Canada's huge. Yeah. So to say Canada doesn't help you. It's like saying the United States. Unless it's really hugely majority, it's hard to It's hard to nail down. Yeah. Cool. All right. Any final thoughts that you just want to make sure that we that listeners, well, they're readers, but they're not reading the podcast. Listeners would gosh, I'm having an issue tonight. What did we miss that you want people to know? Anything?
I don't think so. And I'll probably remember 5 minutes after the recordings ended. But right now I can't think of anything.
All right. Well, if you are watching or listening and you have questions for Milla, please feel free to leave them as a comment on the YouTube channel or on our Facebook page. And maybe you could pop in for a week or so after this airs and answer them if there are questions. And if not, Valerie and I will go make something up. No, we'll probably just reach out to her on Facebook Messenger and say, hey, there's a question for you over on YouTube. Thank you for joining us. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. We'll look forward to seeing you again next week. In the meantime, don't forget to fall in love with a good book. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.